Right, we are live. Live. So this is just a quick live stream taking a look at the updated toolkit for IMVU Blender and some of the changes that have been made, because it looks like even though it's installed correctly, there may be some issues with it. So, sidebar, let's take a look at attachment tool. This is one that's been causing trouble. So now the toolkit allows us to change the appearance of the avatar for each of our product types. So before we didn't, well, we were just basically stuck with the female avatar thing. Anyway, so we can now change the appearance of our avatar. So let's go with male. And of course we can see the avatar from the get-go rather than the skeleton. So we're going to select a bone. Let's go with head. So that just sets the bone that we're going to use. It doesn't do anything right now. So let's just add mesh, cube, yoink, yoink. A little bit of editing. Let's pretend this is some kind of mask of some description. Let's give it a material. Does it have one by default? There it is, material. Give it a color. And let's assign an image to it. So add texture, image texture. So it goes black for now. So let's open. Where's that? Oh, never mind. Let's do a new. Toolkit test. Make this 256. 256. New image. Once we've selected, so let's go with the UV grid. New image. There is our grid. Because we scaled the object, we need to apply. So that's all we need to do for now. Select all. That is the wonky UV. So object apply, rotation and scale. It'll fix our object. So what we can do here is unwrap. So select all the UVs, unwrap. Let's try Smart UV. Unwrap. Bleh. That's a bit naff, but it'll do. Right, so before we export this, we need to save the image because it's generated. So image, save as. Is it in there? Yeah, let's just drop it in here. PNG, that's okay. It's okay, save as. So that now saves it as an image, which is then essentially locked into our material. So that is now an image that we can export. So that's all we're going to do for our mesh. Nothing complicated. I mean, if we wanted to, we could paint on it. Which one is it? Is it that? No, it's that one. Eee. Because we've done that, we have to resave. So image. So that's what that asterisk indicates. So just save over the top. Save, and then layout. What we'll do is we'll export this. So we need to click on Setup Mesh. Now that we've got our object in place, positioned where it needs to be, make sure it's selected. So just double check before we do. So we're going to go into modifiers. There is no modifier here, and in object data properties we don't have any vertex groups, so it's a clean mesh. So click Setup Mesh. So there is vertex group, and we now have our modifier. So now we have our cube in attachment export. Let's just rename this, double click. Let's call this Toolkit Test. Need to save the project. Save as. Toolkit Test. Save as. Right, so it's saved. All we need to do now is export. So we've got our armature. That's referencing the armature object, and the mesh has the vertex group. So those two things are okay. Those are checked. Whoops. That's our checklist. So select the mesh, or we don't necessarily need to select the mesh, but just export. Info FBX successful. FBX, okay. Okay, so studio, create or derive. In this case, we want accessories. Oh, we've all got categories now. Headwear. Oh, I see. So they've reorganized this, but we have the empties. So we want the male empty. Derive. So that's our avatar. So now import the FBX. Browse to right, so it's an attachment, so it's added the prepend attachment. Select the FBX, open. So that's what it's found in the file. Setup FBX. So this is a male accessory, so the ID for this is 0. If it were female, it would be 2. Use imported skeleton. We don't necessarily need to do that, but let's leave it. Next. It's found our painted material. Next. No animation. So that's what it's going to bring in. Import. Okay, so LookSee, that's very complicated, but it's essentially no different from creating clothing items. It's just that you're creating an avatar body mesh instead of a clothing mesh. Right, so it's brought that in, but it's not orientated correctly. So component. Is that the FBX that's doing that? So mesh ID. That's okay. And okay, so that looks like that's an orientation issue. Okay, so let's enable skeleton. Can we see it? So on the pelvis bone, that should be minus 30, minus 90, and then minus 90, oh no, plus 90 going forward. So that's positioned incorrectly. What is that? Where did that go? Right, so that's not the right one, so head. Where's head gone? Head. Yes, so the orientation is wrong. So can we item? So that's all okay. That's all okay. Yes, so there's an orientation issue there. Right, so let's just let's just save this file, save. Right, so just make a note of that. So it's being rotated 90 degrees forwards. What axis is that? So it's on the x-axis. So you would have to, yeah, so that gets really tricky, because that would then mean that you would have to pre-rotate it in order to compensate for the rotation after the fact. So that's, yeah, so I think we can probably consider that to be broken, essentially, for all intents and purposes. Right, so Okay, so that's that. Let's try, right, new project, toolkit, let's go make a pose. So the avatar tool has changed, or the clothing tool has changed. The clothing tool and the animation tool are now one tool in one. So they've been combined. So if we're making clothing, we just activate the clothing button. But if we want to make an animation, pose, or an avatar animation, have an animation button. So click on that. And when we do that, we get the animation rig. And that also allows us to, well, what we can do now is we can change the appearance of our avatar. So before we were just stuck with the female, so now we can select which one we want to use. But there's a bit of a caveat here in that if we want to add morphs, facial expressions, we have to use the female avatar because the morph controls are essentially locked in to the female avatar. So if we enable that, we now have the controls. But for the male avatar, I think, see, we don't have the option to change the appearance of the avatar now that we've got this enabled. So we have to disable that so that we can change it, but that now means that the morph controls are no longer available for the male avatar. Now this isn't it's not too much of an issue because both male and female avatars use the same underlying skeleton. Hang on a second. Yes, Hexy, you can. Well, I don't know if you can do it right now, but there is apparently going to be in the future an option. Let's double check. Yeah, there is going to be an option, as far as I'm aware, that will allow you to use your own dev kit avatar. So if you create an avatar that you want to create clothing for, you can select it from, well, when it's implemented, or if it gets implemented, from the list, and you'll be able to dev your own items specifically for your particular avatar. But for now we're just stuck with the default, so that's male and female. Right, well, so what will we animation. So yeah, so morphs, we're stuck with using the female avatar for morphs, and that's not too much of a problem because the male and female avatars use the same underlying skeleton and rigging system. So I'm not sure what's going to be, if there's going to be any sort of updates to that to allow the male avatar, because there's a lot of complicated stuff under the hood that needs to be adjusted for. So I don't know if that's going to be accommodated. Hang on, where's my where's the thing? Oh, there it is. Right, so let's do a male avatar. Let's do a quick pose. So there are a couple of other new features as well, but I won't get into those here. This is just a quick test. So pose mode. Select our rig, pose mode. There's our avatar. Let's enable auto key. So that's this one, so we don't have to keep inserting the key. Select the bone, use our widgets. Let's do a quick pose. Make sure that we are in global orientation, which we are. Rotate. Elbows out. Shoulders up. Head up. Butt rotate it so that something like that. Right, so oops, gotta be careful not to collapse. So this is dropping keyframes into the timeline as we pose the buttons, pose the control shapes. Now, what else can we do here? Okay, so let's move that forward a little bit. Right, so that'll be pose 1. Save that. So toolkit, let's rename this toolkit test.pose. You don't need to do the dot pose, that just makes it clear that that's what we're exporting come time to export. Right, so what we want to do here is set the animation sequence length. So the option to do that, it's been removed from the toolkit. So there was an option that we could set the length, so we have to set that in, is it output? Yeah, in output. And here, set the end frame. So let's go down to 50. So we can see the change in the timeline. Because that may or may not be good, because it was a little confusing, because you could set it here in the toolkit and in here, and sometimes the two options wouldn't correlate. So let's go with duplicating that to frame 50. So select all, make sure something's active, so that's shift click, pose, copy pose, well, just paste pose. Yeah, that's to lengthen the animation time. So that's the duration, this. So we've set it to 50 frames, so that is, well actually let's set it to 60 to make this easier. 60 frames, so that is 2 seconds at 30 frames a second. So that's 1 second. That's 2 seconds. Right, so copy frame 1. Copy pose. Frame 60. Paste pose. And 30. Let's just do a simple yoink. Grab those. looks a bit weird. Okay, grab those. Reset those. So this is now 0 bone, 0 bone. So what this is now doing is it's only marking keyframes to the bones that are actually manipulated. Whereas before, let's do looking down. Oops. Reset, reset. So what we should have now, let's select all those bones and add a keyframe or set a keyframe. That will mark all of those. Do the same thing for frame. Yep. So that's where because it didn't mark or we didn't move the feet, it's maintained their position at frame 30, but we did for frame 60, so let's just copy that. So copy, Control C, Control V. Now we've got this. So when this happens, we need to change the interpolation between our keyframes, because the interpolation is the behavior that Blender uses as it transitions between keyframes. So make sure that we select all. Whoops. Right, so select all A, and then we want key interpolation mode. We want to set Bezier. Those lines will disappear, which now means we have a... So that'll be our pose, animated pose. That's all we need to do. Because again, this is a test, so let's double check our settings. That's okay. That's alright, so save the file, file save as. Toolkit. Pose test, save. So that's saved. So let's just export. We should be able to just export this now without doing anything because we saved the file. So just click the export button. Double check our settings. Oops. Don't want to sync bones. Export all bones. So if we want to, what this should do, if we want to export only a particular set or section of the avatar, so let's say we just moved the hand, it was just a waving hand. If we don't have hang on, Hex. If we don't have that set, it'll export just those set bones. But if we want to export everything, we have to enable that option. So that's what we want to do in this case. So let's just... No facial morph, that's okay. So save again, just save over our file. And then just export. Is that going to crash? Nope, that's exported. Okay, so that's worked. Hex, does that timeline work like the old IMVU pose maker? The pose maker is basically copying the timeline from 3D Studio Max, so basically it works on the same principle. So you set a duration, in this case it's 60 seconds or 60 frames, which is 2 seconds, and you then just pose within that allotted time frame that you've set. So if that's how the pose maker works, then yes, it'll be the same. It's approximately the same. Right, so IMVU home derive actions. So we want empty mail. Was there a... So how have they organized this? Yes, hex. It's the same. Same post at the beginning should go to the end of the timeline. Yes, you need to duplicate the start and end frames so that you don't get any glitches when the animation loops and transitions across that start end point. That's empty mail accessory. Where is... What did we do? Mail. So let's go with mail empty. Derive. Right, so all we're going to do is import our FBX. Oh, did that save at FBX? What did that save as? Toolkit test pose. It's not saved the FBX. Oh, that's funny. We are missing our FBX file. Toolkit test.pose. Hey Megan. Toolkit pose. Add pose. Export all bones. We don't need to do anything in here because the pose is part of the control rig, so there isn't an export folder. That's okay. That's okay. Let's just save over our file again. So let's have the rig selected. Whoops. Export. Looks like it could be having issues exporting. Let's open the export directory. Oh. Looky, looky. It's exported it as an XAF not on FBX. So how do we load is that load asset? Oh, that's import asset instead. Okay, so it's if it's not exporting a complicated product, so in this case it's just animation data, so it's just the data associated with this sequence and that's it. No meshes, nothing else, just pose data. So that means that when we are exporting now, instead of exporting an FBX, it's now exporting an XAF. That's the old classic XML files. In which case, that then means in Studio, we import asset. We don't import FBX. So import asset. There it is. So click on that, open. So what does that do? Do we go through the same import process? Oh, there it is. So it's imported it. So go back to component, action. Hex. No, you can't import XML files into Blender, at least not the ones associated with IMVU. You can only, if you can somehow export those as FBX files, you will be able to. So let's create a new action. But otherwise, no. New action, let's call this stance.standing. New ensemble. There is our XAF. How many frames? So get it to repeat. It was 60. So 0, 1. No morph. We can disable gaze if we want. And let's just preview. Is it going to do it? Or do we have to trigger this? Oh, apply. Oh, there it is. Hey, that works. So if we want to trigger that, let's just call that jump. And then type the trigger in the test box. And there it goes. So that's okay. Stop. Whoops. Stance.standing. Yeah, okay, that's cool. That works. Megan Hex, I don't speak Espanol, so if you have a question about Blender, just copy paste it, translate it into the chat, and I'll see if I can answer it. So that works. It's just that now, instead of an FBX, it's now exporting an XAF file. So save. That's cool. Okay, so that's fine. Right, new project, general. Not going to look at head tool, avatar tool. Attachment tool, furniture tool. Quick look at furniture tool. Let's just do a quick edit to the reference box. Export. Yoink. Right, so that's going to be our furniture item. But because this is the reference block, which is in the reference collection, we need to move this into furniture export. So we can either click drag that into collection, furniture collection, or we can select our object in the 3D view, press the M key and move it. And that's all we need to do for that. We don't have a seat node, so add a seat node. Standard sitting one. Root. Avatar. Right, that looks okay. Save this file, save as. Whoops. Toolkit. Furniture. Save as. Right, so we've got catch a picture, seat node, handle, furniture item. Export. So this should produce an FBX. Ah, oh, what was that? Seat parent. Set parent for seat handles. Seat number toolkit. Okay, so seat 01 sitting. Okay, so let's try this and let's hide the mannequins. Select all. Alt P. Clear and keep transform. So that's going to essentially release all the nodes. And then what we want to do is select the root node. So control click in the outliner. So the root node is now the master. And then we want to control P, parent to that, keep transform. So that's now rearranging the nodes to form the skeleton. So let's try that. So let's save. Save over the top. It's okay. Export. No, it doesn't like that at all. Toolkit node utilities is not defined. Python traceback. To seat equals false. This is something that's going to need to be fixed. So there's an issue with seat nodes. Right, so, okay. Let's try renaming that lowercase. Let's try that again. Save. Select nothing. Export. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Get node number handle. Handle 01. Furniture nodes. Yeah, doesn't like that. So there's an issue with furniture. Okay, so let's try new general. Don't save. Let's try a room. We'll use the room tool, create room. We'll use the defaults. So we'll just use this as is. So we have to move the mesh into export. And that should be okay. Right, let's just save this. That's all we need to do for this. So save as toolkit room test. No furniture nodes. Right, so room export, room ref, skeleton.room. Okay, so export. Oh, it doesn't like that either. Okay. Check valid export, check into export room. Export name room. Okay, looks like there are a couple of bugs in the new toolkit, so don't update if you are, well, basically if you're producing content, don't update to the new version just yet. It'll export poses okay, have avatar animations and poses, but all the other tools seem to have some minor issues that need to be addressed. So, okay. Right, we'll call it quits there. This was just a quick stream to test, check out the new toolkit because it's been significantly updated. But there still seems to be some bugs that need to be sorted out. Okay, so I have to report those in the bug tracking Discord channel. Right, okay, we'll call it quits there. Thanks for comments, Entropy, Hex, and who was the other one? Megan. And thanks for lurking lurkers and those watching after the fact. So, yeah, so this has been interesting. Still some work to do. Right, thanks for watching everyone, and we shall catch you on the next stream. Hopefully we might have another one where the toolkit's been fixed and we can take a look at the tools to make sure that they are working properly and maybe even make something. So we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.